4:30 this morning. Cold. Dark. My legs felt like concrete. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, and my brain is already running its mouth. You ran yesterday. You lifted yesterday. Your knees are swollen. Take the day off. You earned it. And for about 10 minutes, I sat there. And I listened to that voice like it was a friend, like it was looking out for me. And then I remembered something. That voice has never built anything. That voice has never carried me across the finish line. That voice has never once made me proud of myself. So I stood up, put my shoes on, and walked out into the cold, because that voice is not my friend. That voice is the enemy. And today, like every day, we're at war. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Not motivation, not inspiration, not some quote you screenshot and forget by lunch. I'm talking about the real war. The one between who you are right now and who you could be if you stopped quitting every time it got uncomfortable. Most of you are tired. I know that. You're tired of your job, tired of your body, tired of your situation. And you've convinced yourself that being tired is a reason to stop. That's the biggest lie you've ever believed. Tiredness is not a stop sign. It's a checkpoint. It's your brain telling you that you've reached the edge of what's easy. And everything you want in this life is on the other side of that edge. You want to know what tired really is? Tired is carrying sheetrock up 4 flights of stairs at 16 years old because your father says you're not eating tonight if you don't finish. Tired is sitting in the truck at midnight spraying poison into restaurant kitchens, watching roaches scatter across the floor, knowing that your life looks exactly like that kitchen. Filthy, neglected, infested with things you refuse to deal with. I was 300 pounds. I couldn't run a quarter mile. I could barely read because nobody ever taught me how to sit still long enough to learn. And every single night I went home, sat on the couch, and ate myself into oblivion because that was easier than looking in the mirror and admitting that I was the problem. That's tired. That's real tired. Not your kind of tired. Not I had a long day at work tired. I'm talking about a tiredness in your soul where you don't even recognize the person staring back at you. So let me ask you something right now. What are you tired of? Because I don't think you're tired. I think you're comfortable. And comfort is the most dangerous place a human being can live. Comfort doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on your door and say, hey, I'm here to ruin your life. It seeps in. It shows up as sleeping in. It shows up as I'll start Monday. It shows up as scrolling your phone for 2 hours and then saying you don't have time to work out. Comfort is a slow poison. And most of you are already half dead from it. You just don't feel it yet because that's what poison does. It numbs you before it kills you. I remember standing in front of my bathroom mirror at 24 years old, 300 pounds, barely surviving. And I looked at myself, really looked, and I said, what happened to you? Not out loud. I said it inside, in that place where you can't lie to yourself no matter how hard you try. I grabbed a stack of Post-it notes, yellow ones, and I started writing down every single thing I hated about my life, every truth I've been running from. You can't read at grade level. You're obese. You have no discipline. You lie to yourself every day. Nobody respects you because you don't respect yourself. I stuck every single one of those notes on that mirror until I couldn't see my own reflection anymore. And that was the point. Because the person in that mirror didn't deserve to be seen. Not yet. Not until he did something about those notes. That mirror became my accountability partner. Every morning, I had to face it. Every morning, those notes asked me, Did you do anything yesterday to take one of us down? If the answer was no, I had to stand there and own that. No excuses. No, I was busy. No, I'll get to it. Just the raw, brutal truth that I chose comfort over change. Again. Now here's where most people lose the plot. They hear a story like that and they get a little spark, a little fire in their chest, and they think that spark is enough. It is not. That spark will last you 48 hours, maybe 72 if something reminded you of it. And then Monday comes, or your alarm goes off in the dark, or your muscles are sore, or your boss makes you angry and you eat garbage instead of going to the gym. And that spark, gone. Because you were relying on motivation. And motivation is the most unreliable thing on this planet. Discipline is what you need. And let me tell you exactly what discipline looks like, because people throw that word around like they understand it. Discipline is doing it on the day you hate it the most. Not the day you're fired up. Not the day the music is loud and the pre-workout is hitting and your friends are cheering you on. Discipline is Tuesday. The lonely Tuesday, when nobody's watching, nobody cares, your body hurts, your mind is screaming at you to quit, and you do it anyway. You don't do it because you want to. You do it because you told yourself you would. And your word to yourself is the only currency that matters. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you go bankrupt a little more. Every time you keep one, you build wealth that nobody can take from you. Not money, identity. You become the person who does what they say they'll do. That is the foundation of everything. I went through bus 3 times. 3 times. The first time I got pulled for a stress fracture. The second time I got pulled for pneumonia, double pneumonia, both lungs filled up with fluid in the middle of Hell Week. And every person in my life said the same thing. You tried. Nobody can say you didn't try. Move on. Move on. To what? Back to the couch? Back to 300 pounds? Back to that mirror full of Post-it notes? No. I went back a third time. Broken shins. Feet so damaged they had to be taped together just to run. And this time I graduated. Not because I was tough enough. Not because I was talented enough. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest. I graduated because I decided that I would rather die in that program than go back to who I was before. That's not exaggeration. That's not some motivational line. That was a literal decision I made in the middle of the night, shivering in the Pacific Ocean while my body was trying to shut down. I chose the water over the couch. I chose the pain over the comfort. And that choice didn't just make me a SEAL. It made me someone who knows what he's made of. Let me talk to you about something most people have never heard of. When your brain tells you to quit, you are at 40% of your actual capacity. 40. You have 60% left in the tank, and your brain is already waving the white flag. Your brain's job is not to make you great. Your brain's job is to keep you alive. And keeping you alive means keeping you comfortable, keeping you safe, keeping you away from anything that might cause pain. So when you're on mile 3 of a run and your legs are burning and your lungs are on fire and every cell in your body says stop, your brain is doing its job. But its job is not your job. Your job is to override that signal, to push into that 60%. Because that dark territory, that space between quitting and collapsing, that's where you meet yourself for the first time. That is the only place where growth lives. It doesn't live in your potential. It doesn't live in your plans. It lives in the suffering you're willing to walk into with your eyes open. And I need you to understand something about that suffering. It doesn't get easier. People think if they do hard things enough times, it eventually becomes comfortable. That is a lie. I've run ultra marathons. I've done over 60 of them. And every single time, around mile 40 or 50, there's a moment when my body says, we are done. It's not a gentle suggestion. It's a scream. It's my kidneys, my knees, my mind, all united in one message. Stop. And every single time, I have to make the same choice. Not a new choice. The same one. The one I made at 300 pounds in front of that mirror. Am I going to listen to the voice that keeps me small, or am I going to keep moving? That choice does not have an expiration date. You will make it tomorrow, and the day after, and 10 years from now. There is no graduation from this. There is no finish line where you get to be comfortable forever. That's the part nobody wants to hear. This is a lifestyle of war, and the war is with yourself, and it never, ever ends. Now, I want you to do something right now. I want you to think about the hardest thing you've done in the last year. Not the hardest thing that happened to you. The hardest thing you chose to do. Something you didn't have to do. Something nobody made you do. Something that hurt. That was brutal. And you did it anyway. Got it? Good. That memory right there is what I call a cookie. And you need to put that cookie in a jar in your mind. Because there are going to be moments, maybe tonight, maybe next week, when you're in the middle of something and your brain starts telling you that you can't finish, that you're not strong enough, that you should quit. And in that moment, you reach into that jar and you pull out that cookie and you say, remember when you did that? Remember when everyone said you couldn't and you did it anyway? You're still that person. Now keep going. But here's the thing. Most of you don't have any cookies. Your jar is empty because you haven't done anything hard in so long that you have nothing to reach for when it gets dark. You've been coasting. You've been choosing the easy path, the short path, the painless path. And now when life actually tests you, when you lose a job, when a relationship falls apart, when your health fails, you have nothing in your reserves. You crumble. Not because you're weak by nature, but because you haven't trained. You haven't built any armor. You haven't calloused your mind. Callousing your mind is no different than callousing your hands. A rower picks up an oar for the first time and gets blisters. Raw, painful, bleeding. But he picks it up again the next day, and the next, and the next. And eventually those blisters become calluses. Hard, thick, protective. Your mind works the exact same way. The first time you run in the rain when you don't want to, it's miserable. The first time you wake up at 4:30 and your bed is warm and you get up anyway, it's grueling. The first time you sit down and study when every part of you wants to watch TV, it's a battle. But you do it. And then you do it again and again. And every time you do it, a layer of armor builds on your brain. A layer that says, I've been here before. I survived. I can survive again. That's how you callous your mind. Not by reading about it. Not by listening to someone talk about it. By doing the thing you hate in the moment you hate it over and over and over until your brain stops treating it like a threat and starts treating it like Tuesday. Let me paint you a picture of what most of you look like right now. You've got a vision board on your wall. Maybe a journal. Maybe an app on your phone that tracks your habits with little green check marks. And you feel productive because you planned. You scheduled the workout. You wrote down the goal. You told your friend about your new diet. And none of it happened. The workout got skipped. The diet lasted 3 days. The journal has been collecting dust since January. And you know why? Because planning is comfortable. Planning feels like progress. But planning is not progress. Execution is progress. The only thing that counts is what you did, not what you meant to do, not what you were going to do, what you did. When your head hit the pillow tonight, were you closer to who you want to be than you were this morning? That is the only question that matters. And I already know what some of you are thinking, but I have a job. I have kids. I have responsibilities. I don't have time. Stop it. Stop it. You have the same 24 hours I have. The same 24 hours every person who ever built something from nothing had. You don't have a time problem. You have a priority problem. You spend 2 hours on your phone before bed. You spend an hour watching things that add nothing to your life. You spend 30 minutes hitting snooze. That's 3.5 hours every single day. 3.5 hours you're lighting on fire and then complaining you don't have time. Get up earlier. Stay up later. Use your lunch break. I don't care how you find the time, but stop pretending it doesn't exist. Because the truth is, you have the time. You just don't want to spend it on something that hurts. You rather spend it on something that feels good right now. And that right there is why you're stuck. I ran 100 miles once, not on a treadmill, on broken legs, stress fractures in both feet. I had never run more than 20 miles before that day. By mile 70, I was held together by tape and stubbornness. My toenails were gone. My kidneys were threatening to shut down. A doctor at one of the aid stations told me I should stop. He said medically, I was risking permanent damage. And I remember looking at him and thinking, I've already done permanent damage. 24 years of permanent damage to my spirit, my identity, my self-respect. What's a few toenails compared to that? So I kept going. I finished. Not fast, not pretty, but done. And that 100-mile race taught me something that no classroom, no book, no lecture ever could. It taught me that done is better than perfect. Done is better than fast. Done is the only thing that matters. You don't have to win the race. You don't have to be the best. You have to finish. You have to cross lines that your old self would never approach. Listen to me. I'm not talking about running ultras. I'm not telling you to go sign up for buds or do 4,000 pull-ups. I'm talking about your ultra, your impossible thing. Maybe it's getting out of debt. Maybe it's finishing a degree that you quit 10 years ago. Maybe it's having a conversation with someone you've been avoiding. Maybe it's just getting out of bed tomorrow and working out when your whole body is telling you to stay down. I don't care what it is. What I care about is that you stop negotiating with yourself. Stop having a committee meeting every morning about whether you're going to do what you already decided to do. You decided. Now do it. The meeting is over. There's a version of you that exists right now, not in some fantasy, not in some future daydream, right now. A version that gets up when the alarm goes off. A version that does the work without being told. A version that doesn't scroll, doesn't snooze, doesn't make excuses. That version is in there. I know it is because it was in me when I was 300 pounds and broken and had every reason in the world to give up. It was buried under years of neglect and fear and laziness, but it was there. And the only reason I found it is because I stopped waiting for someone to come dig it out. I grabbed the shovel and I started digging myself. Nobody is coming. You understand me? Nobody is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your partner, not your friends, not the government, not some motivational video. The only person who can pull you out of the place you're in is the person reading this. And that person has been sitting on the sideline of their own life for way too long. I want to tell you what it cost. Because everyone wants the result and nobody wants the receipt. It cost your social life. It cost sleeping in. It cost your favorite foods. It costs hours that other people spend relaxing. It costs relationships with people who don't understand why you're changing. It costs the approval of anyone who wants you to stay the same because your growth makes them uncomfortable. That's the price.
What's up, post-on workout guys? How you doing? Whew. Just got it in. I'm really, guys, starting to lock back in. Get my eating right, getting everything right. We're not even in shape right now. Like, I'm tired as hell. But we working back, guys. Working back. Before you know it, we getting shredded, man. We're gonna get the weight down. It's just not enough to have good big arms. We're trying to get defined. We're gonna get defined on them, guys. Let's get it.